Welcome to Ambassador's Daily Banquet. I am God's servant David F. Nwefulu. Prepare your heart for fresh revelation that will empower your faith.
Hello and welcome. Today we're jumping into a really powerful idea that comes from a Christian devotional text, sacrificial love. What does it actually mean to love selflessly? And how does the cross symbolize that whole idea? We're going to unpack the author's definition, see how it applies to real life, and dig into the challenge it presents to every one of us. So let's get right into it. So this whole thing really kicks off with one central question. What is the ultimate expression of love? I mean, that's a huge question, right? People have been wrestling with it forever. But the devotional we're looking at today offers a very specific and, I'd say, pretty challenging answer. And here it is. The answer the author gives is anchored in probably one of the most well-known verses in the Bible. The key insight is right there in those two words, loved and gave. According to this text, the highest form of love isn't just a feeling, it's an action, it's a verb. It's this deep, selfless act of giving. And this idea becomes the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about.
Okay, so we've got the cross as the ultimate example. But what does sacrificial love actually mean as a concept? The text takes us from that powerful image to a really clear definition, breaking down exactly what this is all about.
Here's the definition the text gives us, and you've got to pay attention to that word active. This is so crucial. It's not about just having warm, fuzzy feelings for someone. It's about doing. It's about actively putting the well-being of others first. And the author argues that the cross isn't just a historical event. It's the ultimate blueprint for this kind of selfless action. The author then breaks this down even further into 4 key parts. First, like we just said, it's active. It's about doing something. Second, it's intentional. It's a conscious choice you make. Third, it requires humility, setting your own ego aside. And finally, it requires commitment, sticking with it even when it gets hard. So it's not some vague feeling. It's a love that has real structure. You know, sometimes the best way to understand something is to see what it's not. And the author draws a really sharp contrast here between sacrificial love and its total opposite, self-interest. One is all about giving, even if it costs you something, for a lasting impact. The other is all about getting, avoiding any discomfort to get a quick reward. It's kind of like the difference between planting a tree for a future generation versus just grabbing a handful of cash for yourself right now. All right, so that's the theory, but what does this kind of love actually look like in the real world, on the ground? Well, to make this idea tangible, the author gives us a key historical example and then brings it right into our modern lives. The text points us to the Apostle Paul as like a prime case study. He was obviously a huge figure in the early church, and the author holds up his life as a powerful example of this kind of love in action. And this quote is pretty much Exhibit A. That mindset Paul had, not counting my life as dear to myself, is shown as the embodiment of selfless commitment. I mean, the guy went through shipwrecks, prison, constant opposition, but he kept going. This is that intentionality and commitment we were just talking about, but lived out under some seriously extreme pressure. So then the author does something really important. They build a bridge from that ancient example right into our world today. And the point is really clear. This isn't just some historical principle for famous saints. It's something that's meant to be applied in our everyday modern lives. And according to the text, here's what that can look like today. And what's interesting is it's not always about these huge, dramatic gestures. It's about mentoring someone who needs guidance. It's forgiving freely, even when it's really hard. It's giving generously of your time or resources. And it's serving others without needing a pat on the back. These are the small, consistent actions where this big principle really comes to life. Okay, so this is where the text kind of shifts gears. It stops just defining and illustrating. It turns the spotlight right back on the reader in a section the author calls life application. And it really all boils down to this direct, very personal question. The author is basically asking you to hold up a mirror and ask yourself, what's driving my actions? Is it sacrificial love or is it self-interest? It's a tough question, for sure, and it's designed to make you stop and think. And right after that tough question comes this really clear, direct call to action. It's not just about thinking about it, it's about doing something. The message is simple. Start now. Begin today. So after hitting you with that personal challenge, the author doesn't just leave you hanging. They lay out a clear path for what you can do next. This final part is all about the call to action, providing specific resources and ways for people to get more involved with the ministry's work. The first step the author takes is to provide resources. For anyone who wants to go deeper, the text offers tools for personal spiritual growth, like specific prayers, and also some ebooks for more education on related topics. It's all about equipping the reader for the journey. And what's interesting is how this personal engagement is then framed as being part of something way, way bigger. The text introduces this global mission, one that has an incredibly specific and really ambitious goal. And that goal is 500 million. Yeah, the number itself is meant to stop you in your tracks, to really convey the massive scale of the vision that the author is inviting readers to be a part of. So, how can someone actually help with a goal that big? Well, the text lays out 3 different ways to get involved. You can contribute through prayer, you can volunteer your time directly, or you can provide financial support, as what the author calls a kingdom investor. It's a pretty comprehensive approach to building a community around this mission. And to keep everyone connected to this mission, the author points to a whole ecosystem of online communities. There are groups for daily prayer, channels for messages and podcasts, and other pages for staying in touch, all designed to keep people engaged and connected to the ministry's work. And for anyone who wants to reach out directly with questions or get more info, the author provides this direct contact information, a specific phone number, and an email address. So we're going to end where the devotional itself leaves us, with a question that brings this whole big idea right back to our own lives. After all the definitions, all the examples, the ultimate challenge is this. How does this idea of active, sacrificial love actually challenge your daily interactions? That's a powerful thought to leave you with. Thanks for joining us for this.
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.